The most important process in cost management knowledge area is determine the budget, right? That's what you are trying to do, right? That's your ultimate goal. As a PM, you have to figure out the scope, you have to figure out the schedule, and you have to figure out the budget. Yeah. Page number 286, determine budget. It is your job as a PM to take all these costs that you have just now documented, estimated, and then roll it up into the work packages and then roll it up to the project, right? So what do? You aggregate these costs, right? Just like if you're building a house, right? You'll aggregate the costs of labor, cost of material, cost of architecture, cost of electricity, electricians, cost of plumbing, cost of gardening, all of those, and then you aggregate those. So you take the cost estimates and you aggregate them to come up with a cost baseline. Right? And as I made you write 5 minutes ago, cost baseline includes the contingency reserves, which are used to deal with known unknowns, but excludes the management reserves, which are to deal with unknown unknowns. Page number 290 talks about management reserves. Management reserves are intended to address the unknown unknowns that can affect a project. The management reserve is not included in the cost baseline, but is a part of the overall project budget. So this line, page number 290, gives you the impression that cost baseline plus management reserves equals project budget. So let me write it down for you. Cost baseline includes contingency reserves, right? Cost baseline does not include management reserves, right? Cost baseline plus management reserves equals project budget. So if anyone ever asks you, what's the difference between cost baseline and project budget? Then you'll say, when you add management reserves to cost baseline, then it is called project budget. Yeah. Funding limit reconciliation. Funding limit reconciliation. Funding limit reconciliation. What does that mean? Funding limit reconciliation. What does that term mean? What does that term mean? Okay. Let's explain what that term means. Suppose you have a project that you're the PM for, and you come up with a budget of $1 million. So after doing all of this amazing work of coming up with a work breakdown structure, breaking it down into activities, figuring out the cost of each activities, now you go back to your sponsor and say, hey, this project will cost us $1 million over the next 10 months. And then the budget sponsors, the project sponsor says, okay, thank you for letting me know it's $1 million project. But unfortunately, the finance department is only giving us $700,000 for this project, right? Because of, how budgets get assigned to each team. So now what you have to do as a PM is do something to your budget to reconcile it to the limit of funding, right? For example, you may have to get cheaper resources. You may have to cut out some scope from your project. Or maybe the sponsor says, sure, you can have $1 million, but you said you want it over the next 10 months. I can only give it to you over the next 15 months. So now what do you have to do? You have to sometimes drag out a project, right? To level out the rate of expenditure. So that's what funding limit reconciliation means. Funding limit reconciliation simply means, as a PM, you have to reconcile the budget that you have come up with how the funding will be given to you on a project. That's funding limit reconciliation. So page number 292, right? So yeah, you come up with the cost baseline, and it has the it excludes the management reserves, but includes the contingency reserves. And when you add management reserves to the cost baseline, you get a project budget. You get a project budget, right? So as you can see, this is the cost baseline. When you add management reserves, you get project budget. Yeah.